I'm not Mr. Lebowski. You're Mr. Lebowski. I'm the dude. So that's what you call me. That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino. If you're not into the whole brevity thing. Oh, and, uh, the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. I'm your host here at the Daily Dope, as well as the Grand Poobah of thegaminggang.com. Today is Tuesday, March 6th. Welcome aboard. Thanks for coming in and hanging out with me again. And of course, I'm sure it was pretty much a giveaway to open the show. That was a famous quote from Jeff Bridges in The Big Lebowski, which amazingly enough turned 20 today. Yes, today is the 20th anniversary of The Big Lebowski, a movie that still holds up really well, and it is a classic Coen Brothers bizarre flick. It really is pretty bizarre. I definitely do dig the movie though. Plus, I've always sort of had a crush on Julianne Moore. So what can I say? I've got a thing for redheads, so yeah. All right, so anyway, thanks for coming in. And if this is your first time aboard, welcome. The Daily Dope is available Monday through Fridays, streams live, and of course you can watch the stream later on. What's the word I'm looking for today? I'm thrown off a little bit. The rendered video. Rendered. Get it out there, Jeff. Rendered video on Twitch as well as YouTube. Speaking of Twitch and YouTube, chat is available. It's just not on screen. I find that's a good way to keep the trolls at bay so they don't start chiming in with goofy stuff. Like when I first started off and I actually had a little section that had chat, and you'd be amazed at what 10 and 12-year-olds start chatting, thrown out there in chat. Anyway, but if you do chime in, if you've got a question about the review I'm going to be doing in just a little bit, or if you just want to say hello, I will say hi right back, or answer your question, or take a closer look at something if you would like. I have to say, there almost wasn't a show today, because yesterday I sat down, got everything ready, started the show, and down here in the duct tape studio, the furnace is located here. So the furnace will go on and off because, of course, it's been cold. Weather's kind of wacky. We'll warm up into the 50s and then boom, down in the 20s. And we're in a 20s phase right now. In fact, it snowed last night. So anyway, so early in the show, furnace comes on, and luckily you don't usually hear the furnace simply because of the microphone that I utilize as well as a filter. But I certainly hear it. And I wasn't thinking anything. Go upstairs after the show, doing my thing, and I'm thinking as the night went on, I'm like, wow, it's getting awfully chilly in here. Is it just me? What's going on? Turned out the furnace wasn't working, and it was the igniter, which isn't something you just walk into the local Lowe's or Home Depot, or here we've got Menards. So yes, thankfully that was tracked down early this morning and popped on in. So the furnace is on and I'm able to do a show. Yay! Although it is still chilly because this just finished up with that just a little while ago. Anyway, lots of news today. I am also going to review The Agents, the latest edition of The Agents from Ninja Division. So stay tuned for that. I've got an item from the mailbag that I'll chat a little bit about. And of course, I'm going to talk about your last chance to get into some giveaways. Yes, today will be the last chance. But before that, let me dive into the news because I do actually have 6 news pieces. I could have had 7. In fact, I could have had 10 because there were 3 news items that popped up in my email, within about an hour of going live. And I have learned that I do not try to squeeze things in last minute because it just leaves me kind of discombobulated. I don't know why. I always forget something. I forget to do something if I try to squeeze in that last news item. But there was plenty of news today. And first off, I want to share a new game and expansion that are both available right now from my pals over at Greenbrier Games. Yes, it is in stores right now. I have the dope on Of Dreams and Shadows. And I did talk about this game on a episode a couple months ago. Of Dreams and Shadows is a cooperative board game for up to 6 players who take on the role of champions trying to save their realm. Set in a dark fantasy world, the players will journey from the underworld ruins of a long-dead people to the heart of untamed forests where otherworldly creatures dwell. As they direct the actions of their champions on the game board, the players will participate in a collaborative story. Scenarios introduce encounters and conflict, which are resolved through passing a test or making a choice. The consequences advance the storyline and drive a unique experience as part of the story changes based on each outcome. Failing a test could have dire results, such as receiving one of several types of debilitating afflictions. Many scenarios will also present players with a moral dilemma where a decision could aid their cause, but not without sacrifice. Opposing the players is one of 3 selectable villains. Beings of myth and legend, the villains have their own host of deadly servants to face in combat. Developing flexible tactics and teamwork among players will be crucial, as there are over 30 different enemies, each with their own special ability. You must band together with your friends if you hope to survive. With the Monster Within expansion, which also has hit stores, you can further your adventures. A season has passed since the champions saved the realm. Winter has come, blanketing the land in snow and ice. The kingdoms are rebuilding, but tensions rise as food becomes scarce. The werefolk are in decline, and there are rumors of something exterminating their kind. New disappearances are happening across the realm. Some who have gone missing are later found, but turned into ravenous cannibals. The surviving champions learn that these monsters have been created for some greater purpose. Of Dreams and Shadows, as well as the expansion The Monster Within, is for 2 to 6 players, ages 14 and up, and plays in about 2 to 2.5 hours. The core game and expansion are available right now. Each carries an MSRP of $59.95. Yes, more Greenbrier goodness. Woohoo! If you are a follower of the Gaming Gang, or if you do watch the Daily Dope, you know that I really dug Folklore of the Affliction, as well as the Dark Tales expansion. Now, granted, this is not part of the Folklore lineup, and I do understand, I believe, I may not be right, but I believe that this game has actually been in development for quite some time, so it's been polished up and it's good to go. So I am excited to take a look because my pal Julie Ahern from Greenbrier said that they are going to send along review copies. Yes. So I will give you a much closer look at Of Dreams and Shadows, as well as the expansion The Monster Within, probably within a couple of weeks or so. Sweet. And then I've got some Greenbrier news for tomorrow's show as well. Yes, Greenbrier goodness. Moving right along, Stronghold Games has a new game on the horizon. Gotta be honest, I don't know a whole lot about the release date, number of players, or MSRP as of yet, but Fist of Dragonstone's Tavern Edition will be coming from Stronghold Games, and I've got the dope. Many, many years ago, an enchanted forest lay hidden between two great mountain ranges. The forest valley was home to several kingdoms whose rival princes battled with each other to unite the entire realm under one flag. To gain advantage, princes vied with each other to collect powerful magic amulets called dragon stones. Like many royals, over time the princes began to prefer the comfort and safety of their fortified castles. Rather than risk their own lives by venturing out to search for these amulets, they paid handsome rewards to those who could bring the stones. The allure of the prince's wealth soon filled the enchanted forest with all manner of wizards, witches, dwarves, goblins, and many other enchanted creatures, all in pursuit of those magic dragon stones. This enchanted land is now almost entirely lost to legend. Yet, at a cozy inn in a small forgotten village, the memory of Dragonstones is kept alive by the inn's ancient proprietor. Even today, a nod from a knowing traveler may persuade him to recount some of the ancient tales. And if he takes a particular liking to you, he may bring out his own collection of magic stones and challenge you to a simple game of luck and skill and chance to grab your own Dragonstones. The rules of Fist of Dragonstones Tavern Edition have been updated from the original Fist of Dragonstones to improve gameplay, including the introduction of the King's Favor, which should speed up play. The game includes more than 70 special character cards compared to 25 special character cards in the original game. Some of these special characters can be saved for later use in the game. Artistically, the game has been reimagined in the Dragon and Flagon universe. Fist of Dragonstones is for 3 to 6 players. That's pretty much all I know. I'm not overly familiar with the original Fist of Dragonstones either. I think it's a Bruno Feduti game, I think. Anyway, but the moment I get the rest of the info, such as, say, an MSRP or a release date, I will be sharing that news with you. Sweet. I do have to point out, getting closer and closer to start doing some interviews, and including interviews from folks around the industry here on the Daily Dope. And the first person I'm going to invite is Stephen Bonacore, because I feel I owe it to Stephen, because when we chatted with him, I want to say it was last Origins, Elliot Miller and I, who most folks who follow the Gaming Gang know, we used to work together on the Gaming Gang, and we co-hosted a podcast together. And we had actually talked about bringing the podcast back, both with voiceofe.com, which is Elliot's site now, and of course the Gaming Gang and myself. And we did one episode, and we had a lot of fun, but our schedules just, and especially now I'm doing the Daily Show, we're just unfortunately not going to see the podcast again. But we had promised Stephen that he would be our first guest, so I am going to actually extend that invitation to join me through Skype or whatever, Google Talk, whatever video chat we can put together. And I'd love to bring him on the show. So start looking for some interviews and that to be popping up within the next couple of weeks, because I think I've ironed out all the issues that I had earlier. Okay, moving right along. Backspindle Games has an upcoming Kickstarter. Now, it's not going to start until the 22nd of this month, but it does look very, very interesting, and I've got the dope. The year is 1847, on Jack Turner's 11th birthday. It is the awful day that his father is lost at sea, and despite great-grandma Tess's belief in the power of the dandelion wishes, Jack knows no amount of magic will bring him back. But he tries anyway. Nothing happens. In an act of rage, Jack sets in motion a series of events that transports him to the true kingdom of Morn, a realm half real, half imagined, that's filled with all manner of fantastical creatures. Jack encounters Cobbs, a 437-year-old Clurichan, don't call him a leprechaun. I guess that's sort of an Irish name for a sort of leprechaun who lives alone in a creaky old mansion perched on top of a tree that grows within a tree. Soon Jack learns that his tampering with the long-forgotten magic of Morn has stirred something deep within the heart of the mountains. An ancient wall encircles the center of the kingdom, a wall that has held strong for centuries, but now the evil it was built to imprison has a plan to escape. The nightmares, the deepest fears from the darkest corners of Irish legend, are being called from their slumber. From the four corners of the kingdom they come. Their one aim? To tear down the wall and set the old ones Shimnivore free. In Morn Quest, a 2 to 4 player cooperative board game based on the novel Morn Quest by Irish author Gary McElrin, think that might be it, McElrin. Heroes Jack, Cobbs, and their friends must battle to banish the nightmares and save the kingdom of Morn. As they race toward their goal, they gather power from the land itself, with granite, blackthorn, flax, and gold fueling their quest and magical items to boost their skills. But even the bog beans, the normally elusive fairy folk of the dark forests and marshlands, seem set to block their path. Together, the heroes face an epic struggle to escape the bog beans, dispel the nightmares, and finally defeat the Shimnivore. I have to say, I don't have tons of info. Obviously, I'm only sharing a few different images. There is a teaser trailer that Backspindle Games has released, but it really, really is a teaser. In fact, I've swiped the one image of the miniatures from that teaser, because really it's not showing off a whole lot about the game. Of course, I know the Kickstarter hasn't hit yet, so obviously details about gameplay are pretty slim. But I have to say, I happen to be first generation Irish. Yes, my father is from the Emerald Isle. Grew up in Larne. But I'm really interested to see the different Irish legends incorporated into Morn Quest. I think that should be pretty cool. And I have to say, Backspindle Games did a really nice job with Dance of the Fireflies. I reviewed that very recently. Really enjoyed it. My sister-in-law really, really digs that game. In fact, it's not even on my shelf anymore. It's got to sit in my car. It's one of the games that has to stay in my car in case Dawn feels like she wants to play games with us. And, of course, I'm going to bust that out. She also digs Songbirds, which I just did a review of, which that was a lot of fun too. Very cool game. Anyway, so Backspindle Games, I'm looking forward to this Kickstarter, and they've got some chops. They've got a reputation of putting together some pretty cool games. So I will be keeping my eyes peeled for this one, that's for sure. All right, moving right along, let's talk a little bit about RPGs, because Modiphius Entertainment has announced that, yes, finally arriving in print is the Infinity RPG Adventures in the Human Sphere. And if you're not familiar with Infinity, it is based on the Corvus Belli miniatures game, which is really popular. It's a skirmish level game, if I understand correctly. But we're talking about the RPG, so here is the dope on Adventures in the Human Sphere. From the unreachable boardrooms of the hyperpowers to the cold asteroids of Human Edge and the bright allure of Maya to the dark corners of Arachne, here we go, gonna have all these unpronounceable names coming. Intrigues and confrontations take place across every aspect of the human sphere. New plots, counteroffensives, and plans for subterfuge are deployed with a frantic pace. Even Aleph would struggle to process. Walking in infinitesimal, I don't know. That is not a word that I recognize. It's not, could it be infinitesimal, I guess? But yeah, I guess it is. It just looks, I'm looking at the press release and it just, Didn't strike me. Yeah, so I guess it's walking in infinitesimally thin line amidst the political, social, and physical turmoil. 0 to 12 agents are tasked with containing the chaos before it escalates. Why would it be 0? Nobody's going to tackle it? Allowing regular citizens of the human sphere to live their lives blissfully unaware of the dangers that threaten to unravel the delicate balance of powers. Adventures in the Human Sphere provides a collection of far-reaching missions, each designed to thrust your agents into the path of machinations and conflicts that jeopardize the fragile alliances which bind humanity together. Immerse yourself in the infinity role-playing game with 10 independent adventures that run the length and breadth of the human sphere, from Sol to Human Edge. New adversaries to add to your rosters, including the Hungries of the Combined Army and brutal Kyrgyz Mafia. In-depth maps of key locations, quantronic networks, and social interactions that underpin the conflicts within this rich array of locations is also included. There's also comprehensive wilderness of mirrors objectives for each adventure with specific plot hooks for each faction. Advice on extending both scenes and adventures so that these missions become a springboard for your own expanded campaigns. Modiphius hopes you enjoy this latest Infinity release and look out for more great Infinity adventures appearing soon. You can order the 116-page physical book for approximately $22.25, depending on the exchange rate, through Modiphius. Or if digital is more your thing, you can score the new supplements with all those adventures from Drive-Thru RPG for $10.99. Well, I tell you, Chris Birch and Modiphius are always busy. Always got new stuff coming out. And I was talking about having people come on to do, for interviews and that. Chris is in the pipeline, so I will be talking to Chris. And I can tell you right now, Fallout Wasteland Warfare will be a topic of discussion. Needed a sip here. I kind of jumped in the show without wetting the whistle here. And if you watch the show all the time, you know it's really dry down here and chillier than normal today. Anyway, I'm always on the lookout for kind of cool stuff, try to save you some money. And there is a bundle going on right now over at Drive-Thru RPG that I thought is worth mentioning because Skirmisher Publishing has this 90% off March Mayhem bundle, and I've got the dope. Skirmisher Publishing is pleased to announce the release of a special 90% off March Mayhem Customer Appreciation Bundle. If we had anything with leprechauns, they would surely be in this bundle, but we don't, and so instead it contains 9 titles worth nearly $30, unified only by the fact that all of their names start with the letter M, like March, and this bundle is only $2.99. The bundle includes our Universal Mediterranean Campaign Map, Men and Monsters of the Aegean Sourcebook, Rules-Free Mercantile Places, City Builder Volume 6, Mines of Moira, not Moria, Moira Adventure, the Moat Monsters Sourcebook, Mysterious Relics Guide to Pantheon-Specific Temple Objects and Furnishings, the Mythos Society Guide to New England Universal Guidebook, the Mutant Race Sourcebook, and Morlocks Miniatures. And these Morlocks are paper minis, just so you know. We very much hope you all enjoy them. And if you only end up using 1 or 2 of them, then you'll still have gotten a great deal. And I have to agree. So you're looking at 9 different products. For an example, the Mythos Society Guide to New England. That would probably be something I would take a peek at, especially since, I love my Call of Cthulhu. And you're looking at $2.99 for all this stuff? Pretty sweet. That's a pretty sweet deal. Okay, moving right along. My final news piece is for the Fantasy Age Companion from Green Ronin Press is now available. That is correct. The Fantasy Age Companion provides a plethora of new rules and play options for your Fantasy Age role-playing game campaign. This book expands upon the core Fantasy Age rules and provides alternative game systems so that you can build rules and characters which fit any setting and genre you desire. Interesting. The book contains new character races for Fantasy Age, from the primal beast folk to the mechanical Orion, new talents and specializations including bard, diplomat, gunfighter, and martial artist, new magical arcana, new spells for existing arcana, and new forms of magic. You can channel power from the gods or learn the death arcana to become a necromancer. There are advanced rewards, including honorifics such as Master of the Blade, titles, and organizational memberships, which give characters power and respect in your game world. Also included are mighty artifacts, which demand epic quests, and their dangerous drawbacks. Plus rules for mass combat and organizations, which place the fate of thousands in the character's hands. There are vehicle chase and structure rules covering everything from steampunk car chases to chariot races and attacks on castle walls. Rules for relationships, followers, and antagonists, which let you assign boom companions and dire enemies. So, in other words, there are numerous ways to customize Fantasy Age's rules. You can organize stunts into packages, adjust the game's lethality, and more. Almost sounds like they've thrown in just about everything but the kitchen sink. The book opens the way to new genres and campaign styles. Run a steampunk campaign with gunfighters and clockwork cars, or a battle of good versus evil featuring divine magic and blooded characters, descended from dark and angelic beings. The choice is yours. The 128-page Fantasy Age Companion is available right now in PDF from DriveThruRPG for $16.95, or you can pre-order the physical book through Green Ronin for $32.95. So a lot of news here at the end regarding DriveThruRPG, the Modiphius, the special Skirmisher bundle, plus now the Fantasy Age Companion. So I do want to point out that you want to keep in mind, if you're a role player, right? If you're a GM, if you're a game master, there is still the Game Master's sale going on, and I'm going to keep mentioning it pretty much every day while it's going on, because the 33% savings is pretty much the biggest discount you see on DriveThruRPG. We'll point out neither the Fantasy Age Companion or the Infinity Adventure book are part of the sale. Rats. But there are still over 40,000 RPG supplements, core books, adventures, all on sale for 33% off. And whenever I mention DriveThruRPG, I always like to point out that basically, if you're going to visit there, stop over at thegaminggang.com first, click on one of our banners for DriveThru, and if you make a purchase, we actually will get a small portion of that sale. And it all adds up, gang. I'm telling you, it really does add up. All right, so that is it for the news today. Got a few items that I'm going to kind of pop through here. As far as, let's jump into the mailbag real quick. So, Ken in Tennessee had asked, what goes on in my typical day when I'm doing an episode of The Daily Dope? How much work is involved? Seems like it's probably a lot of work. Well, it is what it is. But to kind of give you an idea how Monday through Friday kind of works in my life, is I will get up, I get up about 9:30ish, and I stay up really late. So it's, sorry. Anyway, so I get up about 9:30. First thing I do, take a look at the emails, see what kind of news is popping, if there's anything, that's really catching my eye. Then I'll say, okay, well, then no, I don't think, yeah, that looks cool. I'll include that. So I kind of assembled the news for the day, and I start off with my email to see what's cooking. I get a lot of junk email. I get a lot of stuff that's like, no, just not for my audience, not for my visitors. It's just a lot of crap. But there is always a lot of good stuff too, but I get a lot of crap. So then once I've done that, if I feel I've got enough news, I'm cool. Usually I feel like I want to have at least like 5 news pieces. That's my typical day. I like to have 5 news pieces. So if I don't, then I start kind of going online, taking a peek around, see what's cooking. I hit Twitter. Twitter usually has a bunch of tweets popping up, and I'm like, oh, hey, that looks interesting. Let me follow up on that. So I do quite a bit of research to start off my day. Well, I'm having coffee and usually a bowl of cereal. So once I've done that, once I've got the news, then I put all the news together in a document, because obviously I'm reading off a teleprompter. Not all that well either when I'm doing the news. So I put all that together, then I pop open Photoshop, and hopefully I've been able to track down some images to include for the news. Give you a great example. I mentioned I could have had 7 news pieces today because there was an announcement. Rio Grande is going to reprint Northwest Passage. That's better. Anyway, Rio Grande is supposed to be republishing Northwest Passage, which is an 18xx game. I think it's designed by Tom Russell. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go see if I can track down some info about it. Yeah. Like you're going to find that stuff on Rio Grande's actual website, right? Boy, talk about a disaster. I swear, and I have got nothing against Rio Grande. They really look like a company that's going to go the way of Mayfair Games pretty soon. I have absolutely no idea how that company's being run. And I don't know if it's Jay Tumbleson who's behind the scenes or he's got somebody else doing it, but sorry, Board Game Geek should not be like your sales pitch website. Your sales pitch should come from your own website. So anyway, I would have included that news, couldn't find anything. So anyway, so I do that, then I open up Photoshop and I start putting together the different images that I shared during the news. So I get all that stuff done. I hop in the shower, shave, whatever. Then I'll head down into the Duct Tape Studios about an hour before I go live and start just plugging all this stuff into the various programs that I use for the stream. So once I finish up the show, then I have to wait for YouTube to finish rendering the show. So that's usually about an hour. So I'll kind of take a look at kind of the raw feed while it's processing, make sure it didn't drop or anything like that. And once that's done, then I put the information into the YouTube video because I like to have that timestamp for the various segments so people can kind of jump ahead and focus on what they want to check out. So I do that. Then, of course, I've got to post that up on the Gaming Gang. So I do that. And then, of course, it goes up on Board Game Geek. So I do that. Then I make dinner, have dinner. And then I put the news up for thegaminggang.com because 9 times out of 10, a news piece that's on the show will go up as an article, as a news piece on thegaminggang.com. So yeah, it takes up quite a lot of time because, it's just me doing it. Of course, I've got Cameron and his friends are the gang, part of the gang. They help me do the reviews and, play games, do reviews. And my brother Greg does the comic book stuff. But for the most part, yeah, it's all kind of yours truly. Yeah, the dope here at the Daily Dope who does it. And then, of course, once I get all the news up, and I'll usually have like a news channel on in the background so I can catch up what's going on in the real world at the time. Then once I finish that up, that's usually around 8 o'clock at night. And then I'm usually kind of looking over rule books or going through RPG stuff, or if I'm doing a review the next day, making sure I'm taking another peek at at that rule book. So hopefully I keep the errors to a minimum. So that, Ken in Tennessee, is how I spend my day doing the Daily Dope. All right, so I did want to talk about the giveaways that I've got going on, and final day to get in the giveaway over on YouTube. I've got 2 of them. So the one giveaway is going to be my review copy of Shutterbug from Calliope Games. I will send this out. It has been very lovingly played. This has not been banged around anywhere. It has not been sitting around any smokers or anything like that. And I am going to give this away to anyone who just simply comments on one of the episodes of the Daily Dope over the last couple of weeks. If you comment on one of the videos, you're in the running to win. Easy peasy. Doesn't get much easier than that. I do ask that you are a subscriber and that the comment you make is not something super negative, because it's sort of like, yeah, you told me to go F myself, and hey, by the way, you're our big winner. Now, also, same rules apply for a copy in PDF of Savage Worlds of Flash Gordon. Yes, for Savage Worlds, obviously enough, from Pinnacle Entertainment. Giving away a PDF edition of the core rulebook as well as Kingdoms of Mongo. And same rules apply. All you gotta be is a subscriber and have commented in the last couple of weeks on a video from the Daily Dope. Doesn't matter which one. Any one of those. Patreon giveaways are closed, so that's it. I have not announced the winners yet because I have to wait for Patreon to do their whole processing, so I know which patrons are still patrons, which ones aren't, and how many entries into the contest people have. But that was for a brand new copy of Talon from GMT Games, as well as another PDF copy of Savage Worlds of Flash Gordon. All right, there we go. So there we have it. About 38 minutes or so. I always like the news and stuff to run about 30 minutes. Kind of get the old juices flowing before I get into the review. So, I am going to be reviewing the Agents from Ninja Division. And this is designed by Sar Shai. Hoping I got the pronunciation correct on that. The artwork is provided by Dan Morrison. The game's for 2 to 5 players, ages 8 and up. I don't know if it's really, I think most 8-year-olds would have a hard time wrapping their heads around it. Plays at around 20 to 45 minutes as well. It does carry an MSRP of $34.99, but I'll be honest, I've seen it as low as $20 online. So let's pop on over to the other camera here. Got this kind of set up, kind of squeezed in. If you watch the Daily Dope, you already know that space is at a premium here. Yes. So a little tighter squeeze than I would have liked, but I want to be able to show off the cards and that without having to, just be like, here you go, everybody. So the premise of the Agents is that you had these espionage agencies who have actually fallen on hard times. They've disbanded. So you've got all these unemployed agents out there, and what you're looking to do is you're looking to hire them on for your own agency and take on the other players with your group of spies, or I should say agents, as you also try to score points for completing missions with the agents. This has a very, very interesting wrinkle to this game, because what you're going to do is your agents can help you, but they also help your opponent kind of at the same time. So when you're playing your agents, you really have to sit back and try to figure out, okay, do I really want my opponent to be able to do that? Are the points that I'm going to earn that important? So I did an unboxing of the game, but we're going to take another quick peek here. So we've got the rules of play, pretty short, plenty of images throughout. So talking about the setup of the game, Talking about the safe houses and the agents and the missions and the factions. Talking about what you can do with the agents, the abilities of the agents, the missions. Gives you a turn sequence, what you can do. Talking about the missions phase, points phase, kind of giving you an example of the points. And then there's frequently asked questions on the back. Pretty short. What do we clock in at here? 15 pages, and a lot of it's taken up by the images. I will mention, I don't know, this rulebook, maybe it's just me. I don't know. It just didn't seem as intuitive as I would have liked. It took me a little bit of time to kind of wrap my head around things. And the whole thing is, it's not as if the game is overly difficult to figure out. It is thinky. It's a thinky game. But it's not one that has, a lot of different moving parts that you have to kind of piece together to see how mechanically all this works in the game system. But, I don't know. I'm just saying that it was a little tricky to kind of figure out. So let's take a look at a few of these different things. So, because it's for 2 to 5 players, you're also going to have this little card for each player. So it's going to tell you, here's the turn summary, turn sequence, and then it's also on the flip side, it's going to tell you what each of these abilities of the agents actually are. And I'll talk about that in just a sec. So you got 5 copies of that. Then you're going to have these safe house cards, and depending on how many players you are playing with will determine how many safe house cards you have in play. But just kind of give you an idea. And the art's all different. The artwork's kind of cool. Sort of, strangely enough, kind of gives me like, if you're familiar with Dark Horse comics, it almost has a little bit of a Mike Mignola. I think that's how his last name's pronounced. The creator of Hellboy. Almost has a little bit of his vibe to it. Not completely, but, just, it's kind of comic art, but not sort of like traditional DC Marvel kind of comic art. So we've got these safe houses, and if you take a look at the safe house, you're going to see that on the top, towards the top, you've got 2 half discs with black arrows, and then on the bottom, you've got 2 white discs, half discs, I should say, with white arrows. And I've got this kind of set up for a 3-player game. So what you're going to do with these safe houses is you actually kind of point these safe houses toward your opponent. So in a 3-player game, you're actually going after both the other players, right? In a 2-player game, just kind of give you kind of an idea, the variant, you would have your safe houses laid out like this, right? So you would have one which has, the white arrows pointing towards you. Then you'd have another where the white arrows are pointing toward your opponent. All right, so anyway, so the way this will lay out is, so the way you're facing your opponents, so you're going to have this player on this side, you're going to have this player on this side, kind of like this. Because the factions of agents, because that's what you're doing, you're assembling factions of agents to be able to complete missions. Because the whole point of the game is you're trying to get these intel points. So you're looking to try to get 50 intel points. If you want to make a quicker game, you can shave down the number of intel points if you want. So you're trying to get these 50 intel points, but the intel points are also what you use to buy the missions that give you intel points. You can also buy agents with the intel points. So effectively what you're looking at here is you're going to have, and I'll move some of this stuff out of the way so we can kind of get a better look. You're going to actually have agents that will go on this side of the safe house, and you're going to have agents that can go on this side of the safe house. This is still considered a faction, right? So I'm the player here, right? So I'm this player. I'm sitting here. Another player is sitting right over here. We are both going to actually share this faction. So this is considered my faction as well as their faction. This player over here is going to be the same thing. We're going to share this faction here, as well as I get to share their faction that's going to be part of this too. So yeah, the way these cards are laid out threw me off for a second. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, what? I'm looking at this card. I'm like, what? Huh? What? So that's one of the things that a couple of the gang had a little bit of trouble kind of figuring out is that, yes, this is my faction here, but if you're sitting over here, this is also your faction. When you have more players, so say for an example, you got 4 or 5 players, you're really only worried about the player on your right and your left. That's all you're really concerned with. You can do things with other players at the table, but your competition really doesn't extend to them. You're really competing with the person on your right as well as the left. So anyway, so you're going to have these safe house cards that are laid out. Then we've got the agents. And there's all various different agents. So if you look at the agent card, you're going to see some are going to have this kind of, they call it like a data, I think data disk or something like that. You'll either have black or white. You may not have any on a card. You may have them up here. You might have them down here. You might have them in both places. So it's going to tell you, okay, so this is the abductor. And then it's going to tell you, okay, so what does this agent get to do? And it means it shows that they can extract an agent. Got the paramedic. So the paramedic allows you to revive a dead agent. You got the temptress. Oops. You got the hacker. The abductor once again. So you've got a few that are going to be the same agents, but there are a good number of different agents. The assassin, the negotiator. So each of the players is going to start off with 3 agents. Just grab some cards here. All right. So you're going to start off with 3 agents, and you're also going to start off with a couple of intel points. And there are tokens that are included in the game. 1, 5, and 10. The 5s and the 10s. You can just kind of pile them up if you want off to the side. Or, once again, I have Lego Batman doing duty to hold the various tokens of all sorts. So, right there. Just, I like to kind of keep stuff that's not in play off the table. Because it's very... how should I put this? It's very easy to cheat, I guess. So, it's a little harder for you to kind of snag a token when it's in here than if it's just sitting in a pile on the table and somebody's talking. It's like, boink! Right, so we have the agents, then we've got the different missions. And the missions are going to show how do you actually perform that mission, what do you need, and what is it going to pay you out. So anytime you see these discs, that's basically telling you that is the payout that you're going to get. I do understand that the rules of this game have changed quite a few different times through various different editions of the game. I can only tell you about this edition here. So I believe in some editions, players started off with mission cards already. Some were like the payouts for the intel points was different, so on and so forth. Right, so you're going to have these missions that are sitting here in the middle, and it's supposed to be a line of 8, but like I said, I'm trying to squeeze this in a bit. So in essence, what you're doing is you're playing agents, you're trying to complete missions, you're trying to make life tougher for your opponents, all the while trying to score these 50 intel points, which are also the currency in the game. So it's kind of a balancing act that you have to kind of weigh your options as far as spending your intel points or getting intel points to get to that magical 50. Other thing too is it's kind of a juggling act as far as how do you utilize these agents. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can kind of get a better look. And I'm going to just use as an example one faction. I'm going to clear some of this stuff out. So we've got the faction here, and in no particular order, I am going to take some of these and just lay them out. Can't use that one. What else we got? There we go. So you'll be putting these agents in along with the safe house here. So what'll happen is, as an example, we've got the marksman. So it says kill any agent in your other faction. Okay, so remember, you've got two factions. You got one faction you're sharing with a player on this side. You got another faction that you're sharing with a player on the other side. So it's pretty funny because you're trying to get agents into your factions that are going to help you with the missions, but you're also trying to mess with your opponent who shares that faction to try to do stuff so that their missions can't be completed or they're not scoring those intel points. So this is kind of how it'll lay out as you're playing the various different agents. As far as each turn, you're going to have an action phase. So you get to perform one of four actions. You can play an agent. Doesn't cost you anything. Okay? Keeping in mind, the side of the card that faces you is what applies to you. The side of the card that faces your opponent applies to them. So if I played down the marksman, then I would be looking at, okay, I can kill any agent from my other faction. That would be the command. This is considered the command. And if we look closely, it'll show there's an icon with a targeting, kind of like a bullseye. Well, no, that's targeting scope kind of on it. So that would mean I could basically kill any agent in the other faction. If you have any questions, then you've got your special player aid card right here to help you out. So even though it's telling you this is exactly what it does, you also have this card telling you, oh, there we go. It says flip an agent card from face down. Flip the agent card face down, keeping it in the same location. So as an example, let's say this is off in another faction. So when you end up flipping over the card, you have to make sure you flip it over like this. You have to make sure that the facing remains exactly how it was. And that would be a dead agent. Now, agents can be revived, and you're just going to simply flip it back over the exact way that it was facing before. It's important to keep that in mind, that when it's like, oh, okay, so I used the marksman on that one, and then, no, you don't flip it like that. That's not how it was facing. You'd flip it like this, because facing is extremely important in this game. Let's say, for an example, I played the marksman, but I played the marksman like this, right? I would now want to do this because this really gains me nothing. But maybe I didn't necessarily want to kill somebody in my other faction, because you have to take the command. It's the when you play the card, you must activate that command. Actually, no, I take that back. You don't necessarily have to. It's your choice. So scratch that. Sorry. All right, so anyway, so when you're laying down your cards, what you're looking at here, let's get somebody else here with white. There we go. So for an example, if I played this agent like that, and this data disk is pointing towards me, that actually gets me a point of intel during the scoring phase. And that's why you'll look to match up these different discs, each side of the disc. You want to match them up because that's going to score you points. Only thing is, and remember, they have to be facing you. So this white counts towards me. This black does not count towards me. That would be the other player would be able to get those intel points during the scoring phase. But it also means that I get to activate this command, just like the other player gets to activate that command. Now, there are some cards that will not have a specific... Where do we got it? No, maybe not. Thought there were cards that maybe I'm wrong. That can be played, but yeah, okay, right. So if you're playing with more than 3 players, you can play a card, but it doesn't really affect you. It would affect them. Anyway, moving right along. So effectively what you're doing is you're going to play an agent. You can use an ability, so you get to do 2 things on your turn. You can use the command on an agent. You can buy a mission. So remember, we had those different missions that were down. We had the 8 that were dealt out. So the missions cost you 2 intel points, so you can purchase a mission, and you can also buy an agent. So you can get an agent as a free draw each turn from the agent deck. Or if you want to get more than one, you could also do that again and pay 1 intel point. For the most part, all you're really looking to do is try to get agents together that can complete missions for you. So for an example, the assassin here, even though I'm getting those intel points and that's facing the other players, so they can activate this command, and as long as the agent is there, you can continually activate one of the commands from the agent. You can still use the assassin to take care of secret missions for you. You can still use agents, even if they're not facing right at you, to complete missions. And all the missions all have different stuff down below as far as how many points it's going to be worth, what you need to do. So for an example, Poor Man's Game, if there are no matching data tokens directed at you in both of your factions, you get 3 intel points. So what you'll end up doing is you'll have the various different agents. You can only have a grand total of 7 agents in a faction. Just throwing some of these out here as an example. So let's say, for an example, you play a mission and you play this. Okay, so that is your mission for these agents. So you can only have 2 missions active at each time for a faction. So on this side, you can play another mission. Now, keep in mind, your opponent's also going to be doing the same thing on their side. And what they're looking to do is they're looking to be able to have they're looking to complete the objective in the mission so that they can continue to get these intel points that are on the card. And of course, what you're trying to do too is you're trying to mess with your opponents to make sure that they don't have the agents that they need to be able to complete the missions. Now, once the mission is completed, the mission stays in play. So, for an example, Poor Man's Game, as long as those objectives of the mission were completed, then during the scoring phase, I would get those 3 intel points to my side. So first turn I'd get 3. Next turn, if I'm still taking care of the objective of this mission, I'm going to get another 3. Now sometimes you'll have another mission that you can swap out. So if you want, you can only have 4 agents in your hand at any one time. Let's zoom back out a little bit. You can only have 4 agents in your hand at one time, and as I mentioned before, the factions, you can only have 7 agents total in each faction. But with the missions, you can swap out a mission as kind of a free action. So it's during the mission phase. So you could say, well, you know what? I don't want this mission anymore. I'm going to replace it with another mission that I bought. So you're not locked in where, okay, so, hey, I was pulling off this mission just fine. And now suddenly the other player has made sure that I can no longer do what's on the card. I can no longer sit there and take care of what is needed to be able to have this mission work. So I might decide I want to swap out that mission. Fairly easy as far as that goes. So then once you're done with doing the missions, then you're going to look at your scoring. So anytime you've got these discs that line up and they connect, same color, pointing towards you, you're going to get an intel point. Now, if it was something like this, you don't get anything. So it has to be the same color pointing towards you. So for an example, if that was like this, pointing to my opponent, then the opponent would be getting the intel point. And it just keeps going back and forth like that. Moving agents, killing agents, extracting agents. So these are the main abilities. So you can move an agent from one location to another location within that faction. As I put stuff away like a dummy. Like a dummy. Other thing I should mention too is that you can never have more than one duplicate of the same agent in a faction. So you can't like stack up a bunch of paramedics and things like that. Let's do that. Just kind of as an example. So anyway, gosh, now I kind of lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to tell you what you can do. So, okay, so you could just throw more of these out there. Yeah, we're okay like that. All right, so you could sit there and you could say, okay, well, I'm going to move an agent. So you would have some of the agents have the ability to move an agent. So the handler right there says you can move an agent. So you're going to move that agent to another location, but you're going to keep it pointing in the same direction. So if you wanted to, you could move like that. Of course, I don't know. Would you want to do that? No, because it's not really going to get anything. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to move agents around so they're going to match up kind of like this. Then you've got turn an agent. So you rotate the agent. So you've got that special command available to you. You've got extract an agent, where you're basically taking the agent out of that faction, putting it in your hand. And you'd move the other card over. Of course, we already know we got the assassin who can kill an agent in the same faction, or we've got the marksman where they can kill an agent in another faction, in your other faction. And then, for example, we had, if it's set up like that, paramedic got killed. Remember, it's got to make sure it's got the same facing. And I mean, there are missions where it's like, okay, well, if you have 2 corpses, because it's considered a corpse, then you're getting points for that mission. It's body count or something like that, if I remember right. And then, of course, you've got the paramedic, which allows you to revive an agent. Once again, keeping in mind that you're looking at the facing has to remain the same. So playing the different agents, you're doing different things. You're doing different commands with them. You're effectively trying to manipulate the cards so that you're getting what you want out of them. So for an example, maybe if you played, where do we have them? There we go, the Temptress. Allows you to turn a card in any direction in this faction. So say for an example, maybe you played that because you want to be able to eventually use that to move. You're just kind of comboing some of these cards together. And you will continue to do that. Scoring points for an example here. During the scoring phase, boom, that would get them 1. The different missions. So for an example, let's say that player was getting the ransom. They were playing this mission. They would get 4 more. And you're just going to keep going back and forth, earning intel points, spending intel points until somebody gets to, let's zoom back out. Until somebody gets to the 50 intel points. Depending on who you're playing with and how many players are involved, it could take 20 minutes to play through a game. It could take an hour to play the game. And I will mention that in just a sec. So anyway, I do want to point out too that there are a bunch of expansions. I shouldn't say a bunch. There are some expansions to the agents that are available. That's why the game itself comes in this box. It's got a lot of empty space in this box when these cards are put in here, but there are expansions available. So there's like cards that are like commanders that give each of the players a special ability for their faction. There are various different cards that are more geared towards really a free-for-all with 5 players and so on and so forth. So if you've checked out stuff or you've read stuff about the agents online, because there was a Kickstarter, it was actually a very successful Kickstarter for the agents. This was originally self-published, so there were things that were in this game originally when it was self-published that are not in this core game itself. So that was something that kind of threw Cameron off, because when we first looked to play this as a 2-player game, he was having a hard time wrapping his head around it. So what he ended up doing is that night he went and he was online trying to look up how to play. So then he's like, oh, okay. So he saw how to play. So the next day, this a couple weeks ago, he said, oh yeah, now I know how to play it. And he's like, okay. So I broke it back down. He's like, well, where are the commander cards? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Commander cards? He's like, oh, I saw that you got these commanders that give you special abilities. I'm like, not in this, not this edition. So just so you know, those are not included in the game. I believe it's in an expansion. And of course, somebody over at Ninja Division knows exactly as far as how that operates. Anyway, moving right along. So that pretty much in itself is how you play the agents. So what did I think of the agents? Okay, so I think it's cool that you have to balance with the agents. Okay, so do I want to get the intel points, or do I want to get the command, get the ability that the card has? I thought that was kind of cool. I also like the fact that you're using the intel points as a victory condition, but you also have to spend intel points when you're trying to pull in more agents, more missions, so on and so forth. I thought that was kind of cool, that because I guess originally you didn't get a free draw. You didn't get to draw a free agent in the game. I think originally you had to pay for each of the agents. I wish it was still that way, but it's not. I like it. I think it's pretty cool. 5 players kind of really drag. We played with 4 and it was dragging. So I can only imagine 5 players added even more downtime. So I don't know. 3 players, we played it once, and then Cameron and I played it a couple of times just one-on-one. I thought one-on-one was pretty good. I thought as a 2-player game, it was pretty good. And it kind of took some aspects of a little analysis paralysis out of the proceedings, because you weren't sitting there thinking, okay, so do I have to worry about this opponent here, that opponent here? It was just, of course, you got the 2 safe houses, but it's just you going back and forth with your opponent. So I kind of dug it that way. I liked it quite a bit. I think it's a pretty good game. It's not going to be for everybody. It's pretty abstract. I mean, the theme itself is, I don't want to say pasted on, but I wouldn't say it's completely cooked into the design. It's not baked into the design, but still, I think it's a pretty good game. It's all going to depend. The gang was kind of split on it. A couple of the guys were like, but then again, they like more the, big epic, hey, we're telling a story with the game and stuff like that. I mean, they're like I was talking about, like Folklore of the Affliction. Those are the games that like they're really into, Dawn of the Zeds, stuff like that, where you play the game and then you're done and you're like, man, how about when that happened or this happened? Not so much into the abstract stuff. So overall, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give the Agents, let's go with a 7. As a multiplayer, well, with more than 2 players, and let's go like 7.4 as a 2-player game. Well, so yeah, I'll just say a 7 overall. And I do think it plays, at least we enjoyed it better as just a head-to-head. Take that, no, you take this, take that, no. Here's something for you to take home with you, sort of game. I do like to say that if you can find it for about $20 online, pretty cool. It's a pretty cool game. $35. No, I honestly wouldn't say pick it up at MSRP at $35. Just my opinion, folks. That's all it is, just an opinion. All right, so that is it for today's show. Tomorrow, what I've got coming up, I'll talk about what's coming up the rest of the week. So tomorrow, I get to take a break from reviewing stuff. I get to unbox at any cost for War Game Wednesday. Oh, yeah. From my good friends over at GMT Games, as well as my pal, Herman Lutman. It's one of his designs. Sweet. So I'm looking forward to this. On Thursday, I will actually be reviewing Savage Worlds of Flash Gordon. So I'm giving them away, and you can find out what I think about it too. So obviously, I don't hate it, because why would I be giving away PDFs of a game that I think stinks, or system, I should say, or setting, I should say, that I think stinks. So there's a hint there. Then on Friday, I will be reviewing Reiner Knizia's Sakura from Osprey Games. All right, so that's what we got the rest of the week. Wow, I just had a cat hair just kind of blow up on me here. And Pinky and Smokey are not down here right now, but they've left plenty of hair behind in the studios. All right, so when you're not watching The Daily Dope, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. By now, you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And I am Jeff McAleer. I will be back tomorrow. So I have one last little tidbit to send you on your way with from The Big Lebowski. Remember, this is not Nam. This is bowling. There are rules. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.